There is so much to cover right now. I don't even know where to start, but this video is going to show a bunch of things that the left is contradicting themselves on, while also depicting that they hate America. And as somebody who used to be on the left, I completely just condemn all of this, and I think that the hypocrisy and the contradictions that the left has been making as a party to what they stand for has been completely disgusting. The left just does not seem to know what a domino effect is, in the sense that they want one thing and then they don't understand the repercussions of said thing. And a lot of times those repercussions that come from the things that the left pushes are hurting the very people that they apparently claim they care about, like people in America that are living in poverty, the mentally ill, and the homeless. And I just want to show how hypocritical a lot of this is by examining some of the things that the left has been standing for and what those repercussions are and who those repercussions are actually affecting. Okay, so for starters, let's talk about the looming government shutdown. We are seeing that the government is at risk of a shutdown because the Democrats will not cast their votes until they get Trump to sign off on spending several billions of dollars on expanding Medicaid. We're seeing Republicans and Democrats clashing over this, and anyone who has eyes and a brain can see that we have spent trillions of dollars on the healthcare system here in America, and we are seeing that it is deeply flawed. It is not helping Americans that need it the most. We only have a set amount of money, and the more times we cut that to accommodate non-Americans, there's less money left for Americans themselves. So we are ultimately seeing the left blaming Trump and the White House for a looming government shutdown, when in reality, Democrats are demanding more and more money to support the funding of the Affordable Care Act, Medicaid, and so on. Something that the left cannot come to terms with is that there is a lot of fraud and there's a lot of issues within this system that cause severe problems.
Not a single undocumented immigrant in this country gets a dime in federal taxpayer dollars for any part of comprehensive Medicaid coverage. Not one. Not a single undocumented immigrant in this country gets a dime in federal taxpayer dollars for any part of comprehensive Medicaid coverage.
In New York City alone, immigrants that are here unlawfully are still entitled to Medicaid benefits. It's literally on the New York City government website. We also saw New York City spend hundreds of millions of dollars on housing migrants and people seeking asylum.
I'm standing outside the iconic Roosevelt Hotel. This hotel is still in operation. Mayor Adams said this hotel should come to a close the beginning of June. It's still going. This hotel is owned by Pakistani and International Air. It closed in 2020, but once the migrant crisis started, New York City leased this from a Pakistani company, charging $575,000 a night, $200 per room. There's 1,025 rooms in here. At its height, this house was housing over 3,000 migrants. That comes out to $4 million a week, $16 million a month is how much New York City taxpayers have been paying for the past 3.5 years to house illegals in this hotel right there. New York City has spent billions of dollars funding this crisis.
And yet they can't seem to understand why this system is failing and why the right is refusing to just throw more and more money at them. Well, I'm going to speak from personal experience here. I have a father who is a paranoid schizophrenic. He's mentally disabled. He's gone through electrotherapy, and he is on disability and is paying out of pocket for Medicaid. When we try to make this system fit for people that are not Americans, there are less resources to go around, impacting people like my dad, impacting a lot of people in the US that are born here that suffer from homelessness, mental illness, drug addiction, so forth. This bill is not proposing that people lose access to disability and Medicaid. Rather, they're creating caveats to ensure that fraud is filtered out of the system by asking people that are not on disability and therefore not disabled to work a certain amount of hours per week to remain in the benefits program.
Hey friend, it's the first of the month. Rent due. Are you short on rent and you need help? You would be surprised, or you probably wouldn't, the amount of DMs that I receive from people saying they need rental assistance, they're about to be evicted. Can I help them? Friend, today is the first and my rent is due and I was a little short. So I contacted Medicaid, girl. Yes, Medicaid. Do you have Medicaid? Do your kids have Medicaid? There's two different programs that you may or may not qualify for. One gives you up to $250 in assistance and the other one gives you up to $2,500 in assistance. Medicaid helps you with a lot of other things too. For example, you can put your kids in summer swim programs, even help you with childcare. I've been told you about them over-the-counter benefits where you get them over-the-counter products delivered to your door on a monthly basis. If your child has asthma, they'll cover a carpet cleaning, send you out a vacuum and bedding. And some of the more common things that you may already know about, like transportation to and from doctor's appointments, a meal stipend. Girl, Medicaid will even get you meals delivered to your house.
And let's not pretend that there aren't thousands of loopholes to extend all of these benefits to people that are here unlawfully.
We are not cutting Medicaid in this package. There's a lot of misinformation out there about this, Jake. The numbers of Americans who are affected are those that are entwined in our work to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. And what do I mean by that? You got more than 1.4 million illegal aliens on Medicaid. Medicaid is not intended for non-U.S. citizens. It's intended for the most vulnerable populations of Americans, which is pregnant women and young single mothers, the disabled, the elderly. They are protected in what we're doing because we're preserving the resources for those who need it most. You're talking about 4.8 million able-bodied workers, young men, for example, who are on Medicaid and not working. They are choosing not to work when they can. That is called fraud. They are cheating the system. When you root out those kinds of abuses, you save the resources that are so desperately needed by the people who deserve it and need it most.
Again, we are seeing AOC and Zohran Mamdani tweeting out about cuts to Medicaid, and this is just not an accurate representation of what is being proposed. There is not a bottomless well of money to go around to support everyone in the world, and it is not a conversation of empathy, it's a conversation of making hard decisions to support the least common denominator. And if we can agree that the least common denominator are Americans that are in poverty, that are suffering, are homeless, then none of the proposals, nothing that's being said by the White House should be causing any disagreement from the left, considering this is to cut around fraud and to use those resources more effectively for the people like my dad who actually need it. We don't live in a utopia. Along these lines, Zohran Mamdani has also said that he pledges to spend over $100 million of New York City taxpayer money to provide free lawyers to migrants that are facing deportation, while we have a growing population of homeless Americans in New York City, people with mental illness, drug addictions that are not getting the resources that they need, are living in the subways, on the streets. We're approaching winter and they will have nowhere to go, yet migrants get free housing in some of the hotels in Midtown. Make it make sense. Zohran Mamdani, somebody who is very well off, makes over at least $200,000 a year, lives in a rent-stabilized apartment. Why do you live in a rent-stabilized apartment if you claim these are supposed to be for the benefit of people that can't afford rent? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Why are you living there? We see this woman that is seeking asylum in the United States, came here from Ecuador, and is complaining about the treatment that she received by an ICE officer, and yet nobody talks about the reality of the situation where these people, if they claim asylum-seeking status, they get access to free healthcare. Meanwhile, Americans struggle to get access and this type of benefit. The left is not asking migrants and asylum seekers to work since they are not able to get working visas. And in the meantime, Americans that are out of work cannot afford insurance. I don't know who needs to hear this, but they don't get access to that insurance anymore. And that's when they need to apply for things like Medicaid. Next thing up today to show that the left does not care about struggling Americans. So the left has been continuously boycotting and protesting Starbucks because their union members said something in support of Hamas and they had to disavow what was said. Starbucks doesn't even have any stores in Israel, by the way, just to point that out. But that's besides the point. The main point of this is that Starbucks now just announced that they have to take significant action to support their struggling business. They are closing over 1% of their retail locations and laying off over 900 employees. If anyone is aware of who works at these stores, they are Americans that are being paid slightly more than minimum wage. Actually, in fact, Starbucks pays anywhere between $17 to $22 and even more for store managers. Unfortunately, the very people that are going to be suffering from these layoffs are not Starbucks CEO or C-suite corporate employees. It is going to be retail store workers, people that get paid slightly more than minimum wage and have access to insurance from Starbucks. It's actually not the norm for companies to pay severance packages to hourly employees, but that is exactly what Starbucks is going to be doing because they clearly care about these people more than the left. And so they are paying out severance packages to these employees that are being laid off and are providing COBRA options to these employees. So while trying to protest what's going on in Gaza, the left has no care or empathy in the world for people that are struggling to get by in America, working minimum wage jobs and on their feet all day long. So tell me, what is it? Do the people on the left care about Americans that are suffering, that live in poverty, that need our help? Or do they use them as a shield to project their empathy elsewhere instead of focusing on what they can effectively change here?